Alright, so in this video we're going to take a look at how you optimize your tune for stick response slider or feed forward. There is a optimum value that feed forward can be to follow your rates that you know that anywhere beyond that you've gone too far. And there's a, obviously there's a value where if it's too slight, you can go farther. So how do you tell the difference between that? How do you know how to tune feed forward? We talk about in all of my videos. If you haven't checked out that series already, the playlist I'll link down below. It's kind of my how-to on tuning guides. We talk about step response, prop wash, throbbles, drift, how do you tune for all those things with the sliders. In today's video, again, we're talking about stick response slider and how you kind of optimize and tune into that. So if you haven't checked out my public video on feed forward and kind of the misunderstandings with it, do check that out. I'll make a card to that in the upper right, which would be this way. And come back to this video. So pause this, check that out, and come back.
A few moments later.
Now that you're back, in this video we're going to talk about optimizing the feed forward and how do you know you're in that sweet spot with the amount of feed forward that you have. We did the 2 flights in the previous video. I'm going to use some of that data where we had feed forward off, and then we had 200s, around 200s for feed forward. Now we're going to crank that up to around 250, maybe even higher. I'll have to see when I look at the stick response slider and move that up. And then, how do we know we've kind of gone too far and then we have to back it out a little bit? So we'll take a look at the flight performance, like what do we see in HD, what do we see in the DVR, through the goggles or whatnot. Then we'll also look at the logs as well. All right, so we're going to go into the tuning slider here, and we're going to go into the feed forward gains, which should really be called stick response. We're going to bring that up to 1.5. We had previous video of 1.0 with, this is a 5-inch quad, so that makes a lot of sense. So that gets me up to around 300, you can see. So that's a pretty high feed forward value. Let's see what we see with that. Go down here, save and exit. And let's take a look. Yeah, looks pretty good, right? I'm intentionally trying to do some, not fly around, but basically do some sharp moves. I hear just one. I'm really listening for the boom, boom. Bring it in a little closer, see if I can hear it. All right, let's crank it up a little bit more.
Engines disarmed.
So I'm going to go into here, features. Oop. Back it off, profiles, simplified. I'm going to take this all the way up to a feed forward of 2.0. Ooh, 2.55. Let's go to 2.0. See what that is. Oh, I heard a car coming down that path there real quick. Freak out. Freaking run right over the damn quad. See what the gains are. So we're like at 400 now. So that's pretty good. And let's check that out. So still. Well, we'll have to look at the logs, but you can see even I don't have any bounce back. I can see, maybe you can see it in the log. On the HD, I'm not seeing the DVR or the FPV feed. I'm gonna get some all right, we'll bring it in. Let's go take a look at the black box, see what that tells us. But it looks like even at 400. Now I want to see if a certain term is kind of fighting our feed forward term or not. Ooh. Alrighty then, so just as a reminder, before in the first video, the public one, this was with feed forward off or stick response slider all the way down to being off. And you can see this is the 14 milliseconds of delay that you have for quick stick inputs. And you can see that delay starts, I mean, we're down here at 150 degrees per second. So it's not only just at max rate, you know, it starts to grow. And around that 14 milliseconds that I was measuring, I usually do like half rate. So my half rate is about 500 degrees per second. So that's where I usually measure my delay, not full max rate, because that's actually even worse. It's more than 14 milliseconds. And you can see here's with feed forward or stick response slider at 2.0 or feed forward at 400. And this is what I'm talking about with overshooting your rates. So in this regard, you can see how you've got feed forward a little bit too high, and it's a little tough because you can see in Betaflight 4.3 it just doesn't overshoot anymore. I mean, you have a little bit of overshoot over here at the very top, but I don't care about that because everything's a blur. That's at when things are spinning. So I don't even look at that, and it's a little deceiving because if you look in PID Toolbox and analyze this, or if you even do that, then you would see overshoot there. But you can ignore that, in my opinion. I really care about this over here, and you can see we have sharp stops, which is what I was seeing in the HD and the DVR footage or the FPV footage. So that's all that really matters. What do you actually see in the camera? And we don't see any overshoot. I don't even see it in the log here as well. We do have a little bit here at the top, but again, everything's spinning. In here, we're actually starting to overshoot our rate with feed forward of 400 or stick response slider at 2.0. You can see my rate is commanding 247 degrees per second, but my quad's actually rotating at 274 degrees per second. So it's actually rotating faster in my command. As a result, your P term actually goes negative. It doesn't push with feed forward. It's actually starting to kind of damper it down. You can see here at the very end where I kick into my super rate, then it kind of switches things a little bit. So honestly, on this quad, feed forward or 2.0 stick response slider or 1.75 or and feed forward around 3 something, these high values, works pretty good. You can see I really don't have any that latency anymore. I'm right on my rates. I'd like to follow my rates, and I'm right on them. I am overshooting them a little bit. I'm okay with that though. Obviously it's going to feel very direct because you're, again, right following your stick command rates. So the only delay you have at that point is your transmitter to the quad, and then you will have some delay with it coming back through the FPV feed so you see what you see. So, but other than that, it's not like the quad is actually delayed in its movements because of the commands, that added. You're kind of taking that third component out. So here's another move, same thing. You can see I'm just right on the sticks the whole time. And the bottom line is, how do you tell when you're really at the optimal rate? Is when you can do sharp stick moves and you don't see your P term grow. Your P term kind of just stays flatlined if you're looking at black box. If you're not looking at black box, it's somewhat of a feel thing. Just keep moving up till it feels good, most direct. If you start getting any bounce back or negative behavior, then you've gone too far. But other than that, just keep moving it up. It should feel more and more direct every time you move up that stick response slider or add in more feed forward gains. And as you can see, 400 is fine. It can even go up higher than that. It can go up to 2,000 is the limit for feed forward. Okay, well that is it. Hopefully this was helpful in showing where you can thread the needle on how to tune and know where your optimum amount of feed forward is. Again, if you're looking at black box, it's where you enter those sharp stick moves and that P trace can stay basically flatline. That means you don't have any PID error. That means there's no gap between what you're commanding and where the quad is actually moving. It's right on your rates. Whenever you see P term build, that means you have error. So we really want to try to, the perfect scenario is just never have P term build because that means we don't have any PID error. Feed forward is there to do a boosting, higher stick response slider, so that's a way to get that done for sharp stick moves. It's going to be based on how closely you actually want to follow your rates. Sometimes I think when people do higher feed-forward values and they don't like it, it's because they're just not used to ever following their rates before. So that's what feed-forward is going to do. It's going to try to take out any latency and actually make you follow your rates. Obviously, it's up to you which tools you want to use in the toolbox. As always, thanks for your continued support, and I hope this helped.